What's up, AfterBuzzers? We're here with our last after show for season 1 of Good Girls Revolt, and there's so much crazy stuff to talk about, so stay tuned.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Great music in this show.
Oh, yeah.
I love it.
Loving it.
What's up, everyone? We are here with our final after show for season 1 of Good Girls Revolt. We're talking episode 9, Dateline, and episode 10, The Newser, and they were amazing.
So good.
Gets better every episode, I said.
Yeah.
I'm your host, Abby Vega. You can find me on Twitter and on Instagram at _Abby Vega. And where can they find you, ladies?
Hello, everyone. I'm Marisa Serafini. You can follow me on Twitter at Serafini TV.
And I am Tara Erickson. You can follow me on Twitter at the Tara Erickson, and our lovely guest
Our
here.
special
Amazing.
guest.
Yeah, we're so excited.
Hi, my name is Tracy Silver at Tracy TSTR is my Twitter.
And Tracy is Carol on the show.
Yes.
We're so happy to have you.
I'm so happy to
Thanks
be
again
here.
for being here.
My pleasure.
So these episodes,
So
we've
good.
said it every week, like, oh my gosh, these 2 episodes were better than the last. They did such a good progression of just keeping you super into it.
Yeah, I was so engaged. I was just on the edge of the seat at the end of 9 to go to 10. I was like, immediately had to do it.
There were a couple times in these episodes where I honestly just to myself was like, oh my gosh. Oh my
Yeah,
god, like
I know.
what?
Yeah, like,
what is happening?
Right? Yeah.
It was crazy. So, episode 9, we start off, and I know this sounds mean, but I was kind of glad that Finn like stood Patty up.
Yeah, no, because, well, we talked about, he was the good guy at the beach saying he has a wife and he doesn't do that
Yeah.
kind of thing and go out, so I kind of, in a little bit in the same vein, I was a little glad about it too, but I was also disappointed for Patty.
Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I was glad that Finn wasn't gonna cheat on his wife,
Right.
because we're always questioning like if he shouldn't, even though I kind of wanted Finn to kind of. As immoral as that is, but like I like the fact that maybe that was like the one situation she can actually move on a little bit.
Yeah.
And little did we know.
Patty,
Right.
I go so back and forth with her character because sometimes she just like annoys me. I felt like she was so shocked that she got stood up by him or something.
Yeah, I think
You know
she
what I
was
mean?
very surprised by it. I kind of was too, though. I mean, the way we've said the looks like
I
throughout
know.
all these episodes, it's like a look here and a look there where it's like, dude, you guys, it's a thing. And I was surprised. I thought that he would totally have shown up.
Yeah.
And not done anything. It's not like they had to do anything, just to talk about music, jazz,
But
whatever.
I think it's one of those things where it's like they've had such that chemistry that
Yeah.
if he showed up, something was going to happen. It wasn't
Totally.
going to be just hanging out.
Right.
No, exactly. That's what I thought. I was like, if he came, something else would, continue on from that, and it wouldn't just be music.
Right.
Yeah. And you see, like, before Patty sees the explosion, which we'll get into, you see Jane. I felt like that picture that Greg got her was, like, haunting her.
Oh, yeah.
It was just pissing her off. And we said
She
that.
had it right next to her bedroom, or her bed. It's like, why move it closer to you
Right.
when you literally turned it around the last episode?
Yeah, because we said that might be that straw that would get her on board after he whipped it out.
Yep.
Still can't get over
Whip
that.
out send painting.
He whipped out his Richard.
Yep.
Our guest last. We had Reggie Watkins in last week, and he called it Richard.
Richard.
He's like, he whipped out his Richard, and that's what we just went
That's
with.
what we call it now.
So after she sees that picture, it kind of stems her to call Cindy
Yeah.
and kind of ask about these meetings and kind of gets her to go to one. But she has ulterior motives, it seems, at first. Because she wants to write her
Right,
story.
to research for
and
the feminist
Cindy was
movement.
a little surprised by that. What do you guys think of that?
I mean, I'm kind of not surprised that Jane was kind of going that route, though.
Yeah.
But, like, I'm glad that she came around and saw a different perspective of why they're actually doing that, not just trying to get her story and trying to move up in the world. It's just like, there's actually a reason why all these women are coming together, and I'm glad that she wasn't so above herself that she realized there is a bigger issue going on.
Yeah, let's
than
talk
a
about
story.
that meeting. You can have some insight on that meeting.
I have some insight on that meeting. I think that we don't know what it's like to feel like under somebody's thumb.
Right.
We reap the benefits of what those women fought for, and it's not just like all the women who were famous doing it, but people were pissed. Women were pissed. I remember my mom. My mom that was her era, and she had to deal with a lot of stuff. So in that, knowing that, just going into that, and it was easy to be mad. It was easy to think about all of the things and all the unequal things going on, and being just a piece of property. So it was funny, and it's handled with so much humor.
Yeah.
But it's really written with a woman's perspective, and those lines were written, but I remember my mom saying those things. It was so cool to be able to represent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in a way, it's handled so beautifully, and there's a lot of humor, but it's also, I got on the set and it was like, oh, don't cry. This doesn't really call for tears, but I got really emotional.
Wow.
You know? So that's
Yeah.
my input.
I mean, it's so crazy
Yeah.
that that's how it was. So
Right.
Yeah, we don't know. It
Yeah.
never occurred to me that I couldn't do anything I wanted ever, or that I had to, be somebody's arm candy, or just, be there to make dinner and take care
Right.
of kids. Like, that was never part of my thing. But for people my mom's age, that they got caught up. Like, it was hard. It was hard for them to figure out what to do, and if they chose to step out, it wasn't easy.
yeah.
Yeah.
So those women who were stepping out, and like the to be able to represent that and do that, and it's a true story, that's cool.
It is really cool.
Crazy cool.
I know. I love seeing the show and just
It's so well, your line where all he sees is chicken fried steak and a wet hole to squirt himself into. I had to write it down. It's hilarious, but it's so true. Like what you're saying, like that's what they were. That's what women were like in the home. Just like, this is what I'm here for. I am here as like you're Barbie or whatever. I'm here to like cook you food, make the house nice, give you kids, stuff like that.
I take care of you, and you go out and do the world, and I get to stay home and like back you up and do all the hard stuff that nobody wants to do or talk about, and pretty like, I don't know, like invisible in a certain way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think you see that a lot with
Suppressed.
Cindy and Lenny's relationship on the
yeah.
show the most. You kind of see how, like what was expected, and so it's nuts. Glad that's
But the idea too of my parents, and the thing with that other line about, my parents didn't love each other. Like, I knew that when I was 4.
Wow.
So it was cool. I mean, it was cool to get to be able to do that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Great scene. I loved that.
I mean, too.
And
Yeah.
I love anytime those girls are all meeting together. It's like,
Yes.
They make it so relatable though, because I think we haven't lived in that time period, but it still resonates today, and still there are some underlying issues here and there that we still relate to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's
like
not
people in unhappy.
that far away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like in unhappy marriages or unhappy relationships, you're like, you see similarities in those women, the way they talk or about things. You're like, I have friends that exist in those types of worlds, and it's no bueno.
no bueno.
No bueno.
So Patty sees the explosion after getting stood up, and that kind of stems what the whole story, what they're working on in the office.
Right.
And right away, when she's in the office with Finn, she's acting so, like,
She's just standoffish.
so standoffish.
Yeah,
And
totally.
Finn, I don't know. Finn was like, was he being a Richard, or was he just, because he knew she was acting weird, but he was just trying to act way too cool for school. Like, he wasn't even fazed, or he didn't even feel bad.
Yep. I think he was trying to ignore it to like make it go away, because he just doesn't know how to deal with it. Because I don't think he was going to have the balls to bring it up right then. So I feel
Well,
like
and Doug was
he's
in the
just,
room.
Yeah.
I thought that Doug kind of noticed that, like when they brought up the graduate.
Yeah.
And I thought that Doug kind of looked at them weird, because he noticed that Patty was being extra like sassy to him.
Yeah, like she's being a little bit different with Finn, and he might have picked that up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I recognize that a little bit.
Yeah.
I think it was also just the topic that they were talking about. And, you know, I loved her line, male fantasy masked as a student revolts, which is like everything that they're trying to represent right now.
Yep.
And like the disagreement where Finn was thinking like a man, and like all the other guys there who don't see that the women are being oppressed, and it was his mentality that I think she was also upset with.
Yeah.
Not just the fact that he stood her up.
Right. It was like all compiled on top of each other, and she's just like, "Get me out of here."
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
And that tension just kind of
Awkward.
continued throughout the entire episode at the office. Then we see Ned's comment to Jane, because we see Jane right now, she was on like the tipping point. Like the way that the men were treating her, I think she was way more aware of it. So when they were trying to take Sam and Noah's picture, Ned makes some comment like, "Get your pretty little blonde face up here," or something. And she just she was like, "Okay," but you saw like her mind working. Like, this is not okay that they just treat me like, you know, like
exploitation.
Yeah.
It was like pretty blonde will get him to smile. I'm like, no.
And she did get him to smile. Noah loves Jane.
But like even the added line afterwards, like, maybe I'll give you a credit for this.
Yeah.
Fight. Maybe.
Right.
So it was just like one insult after another, just rubbing salt into that wound.
Yeah.
And just the exploitation and the shallowness of the men as well, let alone how they're treated, just like how shallow they are, without even like anyone talking back to them or like letting them know they're being
Just it's
like
what's
this.
given. It's just what the way it is,
Yeah.
and nobody has to work. They don't have to work for anything because it's just how
Yeah.
it is. It's like even through Mad Men, all of that stuff. You know, it's just your place in the scheme.
It's
of things.
crazy. I can't imagine working in an environment like that where you can't. They can say pretty much anything they want to you
all the time,
and you just kind of have to smile and deal with it. It's crazy. And I mean, we'll talk about it. The beginning of episode 10, that whole conversation, the guys talking about women like that, and the girls were just had to sit there and not say anything. And I was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that more. So then we have a bathroom situation with Cindy and Angie.
Yes.
Right when she ran in was puking, I assumed that she was pregnant.
Right.
Yeah.
That was just my first instinct.
Yeah.
But I had to rewatch what she said like 3 times. I was like, what
I had
oil?
to turn on
What
closed
oil?
captioning.
Yeah.
Because I was like, what's happening?
I was still even confused once I figured out what she was saying. But then obviously they go and have that other conversation. Cindy goes into her office. What do you guys think of this? I think it's interesting that they brought this up because I feel like a lot of the times it's very like taboo topic on TV.
It is, and I found it very interesting that the way they wrote it. Like, I still understood everything that was going on, even though it was kind of skirted around. Like, we just kind of assumed what was happening.
Yeah.
I think it was very smart, though.
Yeah, I agree.
And especially, like, just the added pressure that Angie has. Like, she not only has one child, she has 3. And the fact that she might have another one, just, like, learning about her character, I felt bad for her. And she's in a very crappy situation.
Yeah, because she can't afford another kid, you know? And all it took was that one line, in case anybody was confused about it, is just like Cindy saying, sometimes it doesn't always work.
And and then it can affect the baby.
Yep.
So
and then that was just like confirmation of like, oh, okay, Tansy, I don't know, great. Okay, now I'm updated on what that was because I did not know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess we'll just finish up with this storyline. So then, because I was a little confused at first, I see all the girls passing around money, and I'm like, what are they getting money for? I didn't connect the dots at first, and then obviously Cindy takes all the money that they collected to Angie, and she was so grateful and happy. And I thought the biggest bomb dropped in this whole storyline was when they show up to the doctor, and Angie's looking a little nervous, and Cindy goes, I had no problems after mine.
I lost my mind.
I did not.
I didn't.
Like when? That's what I want to know.
That's what I was
when.
going to say. I was going to say, did I miss something and we discussed this and I forgot that we knew that Cindy had like gone through that? And then I'm like, no, this is a new.
Yeah.
This is new information, right? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, because bombshell to me. I was like, well, Cindy, when?
That, her character, just, I love it so much more every episode. It's so, there's just so much going on with her all the time.
Yeah, it's great.
She's a mystery.
Yeah, so I thought that was interesting. That just came out of nowhere.
Probably after the hole in the diaphragm. Like that hole had probably been there forever, right? But then someone woke her up to it. Patty did. And then I assume, she probably was like, I can't with this guy.
Yeah.
Gotta get, I don't know. What are you gonna do? I assume it was obviously only with her husband, right? That probably an accident happened, and she, you know what I mean? Yeah.
So that happens. That bomb was dropped. I was like, what the heck? And then afterwards, her and Angie are in the car. And I really liked seeing more of Angie this episode because you kind of see her here and there, and she's always just like working really hard for Finn. But she goes, what are you girls up to? You know,
she knew.
Which I'm glad that they called that out because clearly the girls have been doing little rendezvous and stuff, and the guys are too oblivious to notice anything. But I'm glad that they had another woman like noticing that something weird was going on.
Right.
And then Cindy, tells her.
I'm glad that happened too, because after these girls just helped her, I think the least that she could do is actually help these girls by joining them.
Right.
Yeah.
And I thought it was kind of funny though that she is the one who notices, and it's a woman, and like no guys have said anything.
Yep.
We're like idiots.
I know. They're so oblivious to it all. And these girls aren't like, they're passing around money. They're going to meet in the bathroom
and they're
all the time.
going to the bathroom all at the same time.
Yeah.
All of them.
It's
that's like the whole
it's a
pit.
woman thing.
It's like give me. It's so obvious.
That's why it's so funny.
Yeah.
And she, I liked that moment in the car too, where she just holds her hand and it's like, okay.
I know. I thought that was really sweet.
Yeah.
And you guys on the set, I was sitting there and I'm looking around from the time I got on the set. I even walked on the set, and I was looking around. It was a long shoot because there's a lot of different coverage for different actors and all women. Show is produced. The executive producers are women. It's written by women. Like it's all. That's why I think those things that there are inserted, or those things that start to happen. They're like people. We've all been through those things. So it's such from a woman's point of view. The guys become dumbasses.
That's
Right. No, it's
awesome.
so good. I mean, we love it here.
Woman power.
Yeah.
Like
Oblivious.
Go ladies.
Go girls, girl
Yeah.
power. So then we have this whole Jane situation with the story, which was so infuriating. She goes up to talk to Greg, and Greg is just grossing me out more and more. I thought I was gonna like him maybe,
Right.
because I thought him and Finn were gonna like, but he's just gross. He is
What a creeper.
He's
a
so
creeper.
creepy. He's so touchy with Jane. He calls her in and pretty much drops the bomb that they're gonna have a female write the perspective of this story, but they're gonna call in a girl from a different
Right.
An outside
From a
source.
different thing.
It makes no
Outsourcing.
sense to me.
But Finn, it said that Finn was going to reach out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a double whammy. Because I'm
It
like, I
was.
didn't expect Finn to also agree with him and be like, oh no, not to think, let her do it. Let's reach out to another female with a different newspaper. Like, okay, dude.
And I think obviously that was the icing on top of the cake for Jane.
And that's what I said. I was like, I think there's going to be one more thing that
Yeah. You
pushes
did last
her over
week.
the edge.
That was it. That was it,
that's
girl.
it.
You had it.
Yeah, so that was the straw that broke Jane's back. Because she goes,
sure.
she calls one of those bathroom, like
Yes.
bathroom.
Right away.
Now, so they go in and she said she's in, but they found out other girls are backing out now.
Right.
Because Naomi, I guess, talked to Eleanor and found out there's this huge press conference, which I'll admit, when I first heard this and none of them had known, for a second I was like, wait, what is Eleanor? Is she trying to do something that...
Sneaky or
I
something?
totally did have like a moment where I go, what is she doing? Is she trying to maybe like exploit them for, this, for like, I don't know. What did you guys think right when you heard that?
Well, my biggest question was like, how did they not see this coming? I was like, they know it's going to be eventually public, and obviously a press conference would make sense that it would follow up with that. Of
course.
How did they not foresee that in the future? Eventually, they're going to have to get public and face it.
Right. I guess I feel like Eleanor, she was getting all the information, and then I think they assumed they were just going to file the case and then maybe have it after, to where it's like it's already filed. And she didn't give them any prep to be like, this is going to happen, but I feel like she had to smack them in the face with it. Otherwise, they would have been like, no, from the beginning. But it was funny when they were in the bathroom talking about it. Jane is the only one who asked any of the right questions.
I know.
And I was like,
She's so good.
she was the only one. And I'm like, thank God Jane is on the team. She's the only one asking all the right questions.
What's funny about her too is like you notice, with Ned's comments and Greg's comments, they're all just like this little blonde who's always smiling because she is. She's beautiful and always just like a big grin. But she's so smart.
Right.
And when she's asking these questions, Cindy and Patty's faces,
They're like, they're the head of like the movement.
I know.
you
They're like, she's like, has she tried other cases before? You know, where'd she go to law school? Like, is she a real lawyer? Like, no one even thought to ask any of these questions. Neither did I, though.
Me
Which
neither.
it made me feel
I
dumb.
was stuck there sitting going, oh yeah, did she? God, I don't know. Like, yeah.
I know. I thought it
Same
was
thing.
so funny because I was right there with Patty.
Me
So I
too.
was like, wait, yeah, I wouldn't have even thought about
Yeah.
that.
But like, it just shows like how prepared they weren't you know, for this. It was like they had the idea, but like, are they really prepared to fully execute it? You know?
Yeah.
So like, I liked how Jane like put that in perspective. It's like she's the best person to be on that team. Right
Oh, yeah.
now,
I agree.
especially.
Yeah,
I think we all said that, like,
Totally.
Jane needed to be on board for this to ever work.
she had to. We did say that, I think, a couple
Yeah.
episodes ago,
Yeah.
for sure.
Because, yeah, she's definitely
She's the key right there.
she's the logical thinker.
She is.
She's brains.
She is.
So Cindy and Jane, yeah, it's Jane, right? Go to meet Eleanor
Yes.
after this whole press conference thing, and it doesn't take them long for them to be convinced, like, you know what, I guess we do need to do this press conference. And Jane comes in again with, I know exactly when we should do this, and kind of gives the idea that they should do this press conference as News of the Weeks comes out with this feminist
movement
story that none of their women even wrote.
Right.
So it's a pretty genius idea.
It's great.
And so now it's all in.
Yeah, Jane is just slaying at the whole game.
She
Because
is.
she is, and like she added so much more to that group and had such a big impact in the little amount of time that she's been on it. I was like, she's the best person,
Yeah.
She
literally.
is.
And she slayed these last 2 episodes.
I know.
Totally.
She was literally the star.
I love
Yeah.
it.
So good.
Another thing with Jane is she finds out that she's getting a drink at the bar and Naomi's there, and finds out that she is getting kicked out of her apartment because
Right.
her husband is overseas in Vietnam, and I don't know what it is she needs to get signed by him.
Something for the house.
Something for the house.
For a house
and
loan or something.
she said that every time she sent it, that the mail truck's been blown up. Is that what she said?
Yeah, like she has a hard time getting the mail because it keeps exploding twice.
Yeah.
So Jane sets out to make it her mission to help her get this figured out, and she uses Sam, and I mean that they get it.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
You know what was funny is that when Sam was on the phone and he's calling the army, right? And he goes, yep, she still is. Yes.
Yeah.
He's talking about her.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
you know, they're asking him being like, you know, he's still working with Jane? Is she
Yeah.
still single? Like, what's the deal here?
She's
And I
still-
know that they're like,
Oh.
they need to get together. I know his friends were all like, what's your deal? Why aren't you in there yet?
I love Sam so much.
Oh,
I
Sam
like-
and Jane,
he's
it needs to
great.
happen.
I know.
But,
it's
it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. Oh, God.
Frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk
Yeah,
a lot
yeah,
about
yeah,
that
no,
with the next
I know,
episode. So Jane also, since all these girls backed out, she kind of made it her mission as the newest to the group that she will organize and try to get people back on board.
Yeah.
So she has this little luncheon, and it's so like Jane to have little cards made, like invitations to a luncheon.
Yeah.
It's just
So
I don't know,
her.
she's so cute. And she gets everyone on board.
She does.
No, I love that because it didn't seem like low or shallow or anything, because like you can actually tell she means well. Like it's good intentions. She truly believes in this movement now. And then she's trying, like, the least she could do is like get everybody else on board, even though she was so late. Like that's her biggest contribution, is getting everybody back on board.
Yeah. And like I said, she uses her like logical thinking, and because I think Patty is a lot of like on emotions and kind of on whatever she's feeling at the time, where Jane
Impulse.
truly like, you know, she thinks about this, and when she talks to these ladies, she is so smart with it and says the right things, and you
She
trust
got
her.
Fran, right, is the old
Yeah,
lady's
she
name,
did.
right? She looked at her and was like, "Can I talk to you in the bathroom, please?"
Bathroom.
sure.
Friend's been waiting for her bathroom invite.
Right, forever.
She's been
Poor
waiting.
Fran in the corner, man. Everybody forgets
and
about
then
her.
Fran's like, she's like, oh, I'm a part of this?
Yeah.
Right,
Like,
I was happy for her.
I mean, she's been there 20 years. She needs to be a part of it.
40 years.
40? 40?
40 years, yeah,
she
something
was
a crazy
Yeah, I
amount
mean
of time.
that's like that's the thing. It's all those women who put up with that all that time. It started in the 50s when women first started working,
Right.
and they just become these silent little. I don't know. I just have a thing about it. So
No, yeah,
No, it's true.
Because
No,
Fran,
yeah.
she's been there the longest, and she's the one who doesn't say anything. She just sits there and works and does her job and
paved the way for all these other people
yes.
to have that. I had another character that I played in a different show that Mad Men that it's the same thing. It's the older women who paved the way for the younger women, and it's just cool to get to witness that and see that.
Yeah, and the younger women don't always recognize and aren't always like grateful for it because they don't.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just don't like you were saying earlier. Like we don't recognize that. Always, but like
somebody had to put up with it. And somebody
did it.
Because even being in the workplace to start with was a big deal, right? And so then.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see it follow through.
Oh yeah,
and nice to be able to keep coming back and have it follow through from the 50s, 60s, and now the 70s.
Yeah,
it's great.
It's awesome. So Fran, all the ladies, all the chicks are on board, and then the episode ends. Patty's walking home. I knew Finn's little town car was gonna pull up, and she tries to resist for a second, and then she gets in. And some things about this conversation I really liked. And then one thing she said just really irked me because I just thought it was like, on the show there's a lot of like people, being unfaithful and all that. But there's just something about it, and definitely with Doug being so great to her lately, made it extra infuriating for me.
I agree.
But they're having a conversation, and he's like, "What would have happened if I went?" And she's doing all this like what if kind of stuff, And she does admit, she's like, I just like talking to you, because they do. They get along really well.
Yeah.
But I hate when she was like, I was hoping you weren't a saint. I hated that.
Oh, yeah. I hated that line too. I thought it was a little too heavy-handed and corny. But it's true. It's what she was thinking the whole time. And especially and before this, he said you have to get a passport ASAP. And that was still even before when they were kind of mad at each other. And then she made that face like, why would he tell me to get a passport? And then he picks her up and he's like, I want to be the guy that Patty Robinson admires. And I'm like, oh, great. Here we go. So this guy.
See, I was just more upset like the fact that she was so angry at him this whole episode, and she quickly like let that go and like let him, kiss her.
Another thing with this too is even though we kind of saw this coming, to me it because I love Finn, and to me it made him go like down. It did.
Well, because we believed in him. We were like, oh my God, look at him. He's married. And he's like, no.
Even though his marriage isn't happy.
Yeah, right.
But it was
like,
something don't
about
do
it,
Finn.
Yeah, about the way that it went down.
Yeah, something about it.
Well, in his line too, I'm not a saint. And then it's like, okay, dude, I don't know. It bugged me a little bit, but I wanted it to happen. I think I just wanted it to happen in different circumstances.
Yeah,
exactly.
Some way how it all like transpired. It made me look at him like
he was
down a notch or something. It was like, to me, it seemed like he was almost playing this little game. Like he stood her up and then was like throwing all these comments at her, like making her be like wondering what's happening. And I think he knew what he was doing when he was saying those things. Like,
really?
I thought so.
Yeah.
Because he was being so direct with her, and he knew she was bummed about him standing her up. So I thought his whole thing was very calculate. I don't know.
He knows what's up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also feel like in that situation, because I think Finn just had that conversation with that guy where he's like, you should be more free or whatever. And then who else talked to him about him and Patty? Somebody was like, I know that you and Patty are going to get into it. It was Greg, yeah. I'm like, once you plant that seed, he stands her up. But I'm like, he probably was thinking about it all day and being like, maybe steaming over it, and then just finally decided to make that decision to pick her up. I don't know. It might have happened last minute because I don't think he's a guy who'd be sitting thinking about it.
It would have just been so badass of Patty to just be like, no,
and bye.
Screw you.
Yeah, right.
Like, you're my boss. You stood me up.
Yeah.
I have a boyfriend. No.
Right.
That would have been really cool.
Yeah,
but that didn't happen.
What about Doug? I have it in my notes. I was like, what's going to happen to Doug in this relationship? Because she even, like, not to jump ahead, but, like, she even tells him, like, I've been seeing Doug for the last few months. I'm like, what's going to happen now?
Totally.
Well, I think episode 10. Did we miss anything in episode 9? I think we covered that.
I think we covered it.
Yeah. So episode 10, we get some answers with Doug. And I've just been loving Doug so much lately.
He's been great.
And we'll talk about it because it's a little later in the episode. But so it starts off in this little. They're talking about the cover story, and it was so annoying. This was these guys just
Talking
acting
about
like girls weren't standing right behind him.
Right.
Like saying so, like, I don't know. It was gross.
It was just so frustrating as a woman to hear such terrible comments about females and how
Right.
they're treated. It was painful to watch.
Yeah. It was just brash talk with just the lady sitting there like, that's an everyday thing that I feel like we haven't been exposed to on the show because they don't, they don't have time to show us every day.
Yeah.
But you're like, dude, this probably happens every day.
all the
It's
time.
like shallow pigs, so like nameless, faceless, not a woman, every woman. I'm like, that's not every woman.
Right.
Yeah. This also made me, Finn just went down. Like, I know it's like he's the boss and has to like be the guy, but I'm like, Finn, you don't.
Yeah,
No.
no.
You're like the highest up. You don't have to act like that. Like,
Yeah.
So Finn is just going down in my book.
Yeah.
Sadly, because I
He's-
really liked him.
I know. He was set up to be good, but now we're kind of seeing a little bit of true colors, but I don't know if it's him putting on a thing,
Yeah.
For the guys.
I know. I
Could
can't
be.
tell.
Yeah, it
You
could
know.
be.
But they walk out of the meeting and they have this little vending machine, like,
Oh, God.
moment. Like,
So
can I get you
intense.
something sweet? Or what? Something weird. And it was like sexual tension to like the highest
yes.
power.
Yeah.
And I thought it was funny because Cindy, I really like Cindy and Patty's friendship and how that's grown because they're very, regardless of what they're doing and whether it's so wrong that they're doing it, they are very supportive of each other and they don't ask questions. They like ask like the minimum and then they're just like, okay, I'm going to be there for you.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And I like that.
I do too.
Yeah, like their short talk. I think she said like one word. She's like, Finn?
And she's
Yeah.
like,
And it's like, and they just know.
They just
know. And I really liked how much the relationship has grown. I mean, they were already close from the beginning, but like how well they know each other and how they support each other, I think is great.
Yeah.
To have a really strong, positive female relationship in a television show is hard. It's hard to see that nowadays.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's totally true. And also with everything that's going on with them, with, filing the lawsuit and then Finn is the boss, you would think that Cindy would be like, Patty, what are you doing? I mean, we're filing a lawsuit with her little glasses. But like, again, like you said, she didn't ask questions. She just was like, okay.
yeah.
Yeah, accept like whatever you're doing,
It wasn't judgmental either.
Yeah.
It was just-
And the same
just
thing
okay.
happened with
Support.
like Ned. Like she's like, you sure you want to do this? And she's like, I shouldn't, but I'm going to.
But
and
I'm
she's
going-
like, okay. Oh, speaking of Cindy and Ned too, Cindy decides to leave Ned's service or whatever in episode 9.
Good
Yes.
for her.
Yeah,
Yes.
I thought
for
that
her.
was good. I think it
Yeah.
was kind of sad. I think she was hoping for more of a reaction from him. Maybe hoping for like a little glimmer of don't leave. But
yeah.
it's weird because with Ned too at the beginning, I think I said something like, I don't know, it could be any girl for him. And I think we found out that was totally the case.
true.
Because now this cute new blonde girl comes in and he's
popping.
already like,
He's already like moving on.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
It's a
I
shame.
know.
It's a shame.
But it's
like
good.
it.
But good for Cindy for stepping out of that situation.
I'm
That's what
glad
she
that
needed to do.
She needed to do that. I'm glad that Patty or someone else didn't make that decision for her.
Yes,
To
she
tell
just
her
did it
that,
on her
she
own.
did it on her own, which I'm like, good girl.
Yeah. After this steamy moment at the vending machine, we see Finn and his wife in bed, and you just see. I'm still so curious about this relationship and how it got to where it is because from the beginning we just saw that there's clearly not much love there. We were wondering if the wife was like a ditz but
Yeah.
she's smart and she's
smart,
beautiful.
Gorgeous.
And you just see her trying, and I think that's the saddest because I remember seeing scenes with Cindy and Lenny, and you see the woman trying so hard to just like fight for whatever could be there, and Finn just kind of blows her off.
Totally.
He's, she's like trying to like kiss on him and stuff, and he gave her
Gives her a
like
tap,
the
tap.
pat.
I saw
was
that, like, the tap out.
No, that's terrible.
I was like the pat, like that is like friend.
It's
like,
the worst.
Like all right, buddy.
Yeah.
And-
I would have
and-
cried right there in
And
the
right
moment
when she
if
got
I
the
was her.
patch, you saw it on
She
her
knew.
face.
She knew.
But he kind of gets a change in tone for like a second. It was like, let's go out for breakfast. Mm-hmm. We don't
She
see
livens back up a bit,
like a
but then I'm
second.
like, oh, I don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
here.
But the fact that like work immediately ruined that too, like their potential moment. It just shows that he never chose her first.
Ever.
It was always work. It was always something else over his family,
Yeah.
which is really sad.
Kind of like she should have seen it coming.
Yeah.
Which I think she probably did, but she assumed. Women always assume, not always, but I feel like they do always assume that they can change
Yes.
guys that they love. and most of the time you can't.
Yeah. And Wick.
Oh, Wick.
Hey, Wick.
Wick's news. Hey, Wick. Hey,
Wick's
Wick.
back.
Yep.
What's up?
What are you doing here?
He gets a call. I 100% thought he knew something about the girls.
Me too.
Same
I was like,
here.
he's going to tell him about
Yes.
the lawsuit.
Yeah.
Somehow he found out, and
Yeah, so I was nervous. He's like, can you meet me for a drink? We'll just talk about that real quick. So they meet for a drink. Turns out that it's nothing about the girls. It is Gregory is just bad news and is pretty much selling covers for advertisements. So like the
for
people
big
who are
ads.
paying for big ads are getting covers.
Yep.
Which Wick made a really good point. He goes, I worked there for how many years? And he's like, if that comes out, that makes me look so bad.
Totally.
Which is true. And at this point, I'm like, Gregory needs to,
Yeah. Kick it.
yeah.
I don't know. Also, like now, Finn, he's worked with Gregory for so long. He knows Gregory for so long, and like it's kind of hard to learn something so terrible about your friend. And now he's just stuck between a rock and a hard place. Like he should do what's right and fire him, but he's a friend.
I think he like knew too deep down, but hated that it was Wick telling him that.
Oh, yeah.
Like because of how him and Wick's like relationship ended, kind of. I think right when he said it, I think Finn deep down did know that that's what Gregory was doing.
Right.
But I think the fact that it was coming from someone he fired and it was coming that kind of way, he wanted to like push it away and be like, no, I know better. Even though
like it's a weird power move, you know, because he had to fire Wick. He was so mad about what Wick went over his head and published a cover that he should not have.
Yes.
And that was like a huge deal. So, yeah, it's a weird power play over there.
Yeah, so I'm curious to, but Gregory is,
Yeah, I mean, he can get
don't
out
last
of here
long.
with his
Yeah.
weird paintings and
his weird touching.
He needs
Yeah.
to leave, not just
does.
for like that. That was just like another thing that made his character so unlikable. Like he's just not good news. Just get rid of him.
Yeah.
And Jane was totally hardballing him though in episode 9.
So
I wrote
great.
that. I
Oh my
said Jane hardens up with time, guy. Because I forgot his
love
name.
it.
Good.
She
Yeah.
like would walk by and he called Jane over and said something and he's like, where's that smile? And she goes, is that all you wanted?
Yep.
And he's like, yep. And she just
like,
walked
yes,
away.
girl, get
She
it.
is just,
Yeah.
these last few
Slaying.
episodes, amazing. And speaking of Jane, all the girls meet and they're talking about the press conference because from this episode, they're counting down like 3 days before and kind of showing the days.
Totally.
And they talk about, Eleanor talks about how she wants one of the girls to speak. And my first instinct was, oh, it should be Jane. But someone goes, Patty, it should be you because she like, you know, started the whole thing. But I think Jane was the obvious choice.
Totally.
And she, I love how she was not on board and now she's like,
She's
full on.
she's spearheading the whole thing.
She is. I love it.
So they decide on Jane. And I think that's pretty cool.
I think it's a good choice.
Yeah, it's definitely the best choice, and I think I liked how it came around because it seems like Jane definitely is in, like full on in, but like also she doesn't want to like hurt anybody's feelings, and I'm like, no, if you're gonna be in this part of Revolution, people are gonna get hurt. Like it's not just you, it's the other people. So I was like, you just gotta toughen up a little bit.
Yeah.
So like I liked how she had that realization as well.
Yeah. So then also we see Patty coming up to Doug. I'm so confused by what her mindset is and what she's trying to do really with Doug because right after her and Finn are talking about like how they can't stop thinking about each other and all this stuff, it almost
right.
seemed like a guilty thing to Doug. Like she's like, I've missed you. He said it or she said like, I've missed you. She's like, can I cook you dinner?
She says, yeah, I want to see you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's been, like I said, he's been so sweet. I didn't know how he was going to react when she goes, I want to be a reporter. And he was just, I want to help you. He's like, I want you to get everything you want.
Everything you've always wanted, yeah.
And he has totally loosened up a bit ever since Finn kind of told him that he needs to step out of his comfort zone to do these stories.
Right.
So I've been really liking him lately. And so when Patty's like saying this stuff to him in my gut, I'm like, oh, he doesn't even know.
Yeah, he doesn't know. I don't know. I feel like that was her last chance to reach out to be like, maybe I can forget about Finn and forget about like maybe what happened if I can really dig in deep with Doug.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it was a last resort.
I know. It was
Because yeah.
It was sad. I have Jane / we were kind of already touched on this. Jane and Jane being hilarious to Greg. She's so over him at this point.
Oh yes,
Good.
so good. Yeah, she's hardballing him.
And it's awesome because she's doing it. It's interesting to me because she's doing it in a way that it's not disrespectful. Like she's kind of blowing him off, but she's still being respectful. When he calls her over, she'll go over there. Is that all you need, kind of thing? And it's interesting because before she's just all smiles, and it's funny that she just now, it took like a couple things to make her realize, like, why have I been doing this for so long?
Because I'm just here to do my job.
Yeah.
And nothing more. Like, whatever else you put on me is not anything that I should take.
Yeah.
But it took her a minute to realize that. But when she does, and she's on a roll, she's like, you guys can all...
Yeah, it's so awesome because Greg just looks like an idiot when he like calls
he doesn't know
her.
how to respond.
I know, he looks so dumb because he like calls her over and is trying to be super flirty, and she's just not having it.
Yeah.
She's like, nope.
See you later.
We already talked about Wick and Finn too. So, okay,
I know what you're going for. Oh man, I see it in your face.
Noah
Yeah.
and Sam.
Uh-huh.
So Sam asks, he kind of getting job leads for Noah, and asks Jane if she wants to go see him, but she has plans because she's having the girls over for some happy hour drinks. And Sam and Noah have like a nice conversation. He pulls out this baseball that they had from when they were younger.
Mickey Mantle.
Yes, and then their signature signed.
Yeah.
And he gives him the job leads, and Noah seemed pretty surprised. I can't believe you did this. And Sam's like, Sam's just the nicest guy.
So nice.
Then he leaves, and within 2 seconds, you just hear a gunshot fire off. This was one of the moments I was like, what?
Oh, really? I knew it. I
I
said
saw
to
it
myself
coming,
out
too.
loud, the Mickey Mantle, no, dude, I think you should have it. And then I'm like, oh, the job. That's why before he was saying, hey, by the way, I don't need you to get me that. But Sam interrupted him. It's like, no problem, I got it. The second he walked out of the door, I went 1, 2, and I went boom. And then it happened the second after.
Seriously?
I knew it. I just knew
knew?
it. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I knew it.
I saw it coming too. I was like,
I
that's a
did
parting
not.
gift.
Yeah.
It's literally like, I knew the moment like he gave the baseball. It's like, no, I want you to have it. I'm like,
Yep.
oh no.
Yep,
something
he's going to
Really?
check out of
Yeah.
here because he can't.
Holy cow, I did not see that coming.
Yeah.
It's a parting gift.
I felt it like in the beats in that show. And I said it out loud. I was like, boom. And then I'm like, oh, maybe not. And then boom.
Oh, I was so shocked. I
yeah.
clearly I still am a little shocked. So that was crazy. And then just gets crazier from here in
Yeah,
the episode,
I
in my
agree. It
opinion.
does.
Starts to get deep.
Sam calls Jane, and I thought it was funny when the girls were in the background being like, he's so cute. Like, why don't you just, because it's so true. He's so cute and like, whatever. And Sam, what do you think his deal is? Why do you think he didn't tell Jane?
Well, because, right?
They like each other.
They do, yeah. And all the girls were in the back, and she was so busy.
And giddy, and she was like
such
in a
an
totally,
intimate
and she was in a
thing.
different
different
mood.
zone. Because normally
Yeah.
she's so present there for Sam, like, hey, what's going on? And no one's ever at her
Yeah.
house. She said it was the first time she's like, I don't know, I've never done happy hour before. Like it was, and so I would feel uncomfortable too if I was in his position. I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna let you get back to your party. I'm not gonna tell you this weird thing. And also, it feels like she's kind of like moving on from him. I would have felt that too, right? Because she's hanging out with her girlfriends and she's not normally, and I just felt like there was a disconnect.
Yeah, I got that. That's the only thing I could really imagine is she was kind of giggling. She's like, "Girl, stop!" Like, and she was in such like this giddy mood, and he was in this very like serious, and so I think he just kind of
It was like the timing wasn't right.
For sure.
And you heard the girls' brash comments like, when are you gonna ball him? I'm like,
Yeah,
right,
So
all that
like
stuff.
it was just like bad timing.
Bad, yeah. Not for that conversation.
Yeah,
too.
and I was when he called someone else, I was like, did you guys have any idea who he was calling?
No.
idea.
Okay.
No.
What did the heck?
Okay.
Where did that come from?
So he shows up to Naomi's.
Oh my God.
Did I like miss some sort of flirting that happened? Like, what the heck?
I think you're like we're all on the same
all
page.
did.
Like, were there any moments where those two
Indicators.
flirted? Like, that made the audience believe that these two could be a couple?
I
No.
thought that their first interaction was honestly when Sam and Jane helped her last
Yes,
episode.
it was with the thing, with the letters and the mail or whatever.
That
right?
was crazy to me.
It was insane because there was no prep
It's so
for
left
it.
field.
And what
Totally.
a steamy sex scene they had.
Right?
Right.
And
It
she's
was
like, it's okay. I
0
need it
to
too."
100 real quick.
Real quick. I agree.
I did not like that though because
They're
in my
both women.
head I'm like, Jane,
Well, it did. It was like before they even did anything, he was bawling onto Naomi's her name, right?
Yeah.
And then it cuts to Jane.
Yes,
and I'm
it did.
like, what? And I just wrote in my notes like should have been Jane, but
Yeah.
like that whole phone call threw it off. And then what? I just WTF XOXO. I don't know what's
I know.
happening here.
I totally noticed the cutaway to Jane too, though.
Yeah.
Because I think obviously that's still like a thing.
Oh, totally. It just should have been them.
And I also thought that when Jane got in her car to go somewhere, I thought she was going to show up to Sam's.
his place,
Yeah.
and then he wasn't going to be there,
Yeah.
right? I did too.
I thought that.
Yeah.
But she actually ends up going to her dad's. And I loved this scene.
Me too.
So good.
I was very nervous about it for a sec because she is sitting there just kind of expressing everything that she's feeling. And when he goes to the door, about how she wants to be a reporter and how they're following this lawsuit, and she's like, I don't want you guys to pay for me anymore. I want to. You guys have been so generous. And she doesn't, she does it in a very respectful way. She's like, you guys have been so generous, but it's, I need to start doing this for myself.
Right.
And at first, I thought he was just going to be like, leave.
I agree.
Yeah.
But
He
then
said, "Are you
independence.
using drugs?"
yeah. He's like, what drugs, everyone?
Yeah.
But he ends up being very sweet, and, I love that. I'm glad.
I think he was only sweet after Anna Kemp's amazing acting. I just put what acting, Anna Kemp? Because it was like crying there and just is like, I need you, Daddy. I want you to be proud of me.
Yeah.
And then even then I was like, and then he closed the door and I'm like, I think that it was all on her shoulders and it shouldn't have been because she's a child. It should be him to be like, no matter what you do, I'm proud and I will support you. She really had to. That's like such a vulnerable position, with her, especially with guy problems with her lately, and her having to stand up to her dad to be like, "I need you." And I was like, "Is he going to be a Richard right now?" And he wasn't. And he closed the door and was just like, "Yale didn't accept me. You should shoot for whatever."
And I love that.
I love that too.
It was so good because I was honestly thinking it was gonna go completely south, and the fact that he was gonna disown her after we had the audience and you just build up to believe her family is very judgmental and really wants to control her life, and the fact that she wants to not be a part of that and disconnect herself. I thought that was good on her, but I completely thought he was gonna disown her. But the fact that just support and be proud. I love that, and it made me just reevaluate her life. Maybe she grew up a privileged life, but her parents actually did mean well.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, they did well with her.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
now that she's grown up, he should have said, "I support you no matter what," right off the bat. She really had to fight
She did
for
have
that
to push a
support.
little bit.
And I can see now that would have been a moment lost, and he would have cut her off. But if it wasn't for her saying what she said,
I agree.
I don't know what would have happened.
Yep.
And I think it's great. It comes from a very strong male. After all the other males in the show are so degrading, that the one person that really, really matters to her is her own family. And I'm glad it ended on a positive note.
If
With
your
the
father
male.
can believe in you, then you can take it and you can do what has to be done. So
Yeah.
it's kind of the bridge relationship for her to go and do what has to be done.
Exactly. I feel like she needed him to say, I'm there, and now she has nothing to lose. She's like, I'm all in.
Yeah.
But speaking of good reactions, Patty goes home, and Doug is in her apartment. He had brought her flowers, and he saw her article. And I thought it was heartbreaking because he's like, what do you not, why do you like me if you can't trust me? He's like, I would have supported you. I would have been there. And if it weren't for that other conversation they had about her wanting to be a reporter, I'd be like, but would you really? It's so easy to say that now after the fact. It's easy to say coulda, but But I do believe that. I believe him in that, and definitely in the sense that the next morning he didn't rat them out to Finn.
Yeah, no,
And he could have,
because
because they're like, where are the girls? And he easily could have been, they're up to this is what they're doing, but he didn't do that. And so that made me just really feel for Doug, because I truly think he just felt hurt, because he was at that point all in, I thought, with Patty and trying to make it work, and she wasn't.
That blew it up.
Well, it also just shows how much Patty still doesn't trust him in this relationship, and the fact that she's been lying to him for all these this whole time. It just
Right.
shows that he was more into this relationship than Patty was.
Yeah. I mean, she did have a good point saying, like, you'd never supported me, like, with the Novo, too. And she's like, was your first article great? Or she's like, but did you have a researcher making it great for you? And then you got to turn it in,
Yeah.
which she didn't have because she's playing on both sides. She's trying to write for herself and write for him. And I'm like, yes, she makes a solid, great point where I'm like, that's a good argument for her, but it's not the whole thing because she loves Finn. I do feel like she's like wants Finn, but she wants to have both because she's Patty. So I felt bad for Doug, but in the sense of like, you never gave me a chance. He, you know, I'm like, yeah, she made a lot of good points in that.
Yeah, she did. Now Cindy and Lenny.
Oh man. Did we not? Oh, whoa.
Yeah, so because all these ladies decide that they're going to tell these guys, you know, before the press conference. And she tells him, and he is a, you know what?
Yeah.
Calls her so selfish.
Yep.
And I was hoping I saw her slapping him coming. I'm like, good.
Oh, I saw it.
She needs to slap him.
Yeah.
He straight backhands her with like the glass. And I was hoping that for that point she was gonna be like, this is done. And that's what she did.
Oh yeah, I knew that hit was gonna come from him. Like I knew he was gonna hit her, especially because there was that quick shot of him pouring a drink. I was like, when you add alcohol to any argument, it's gonna be bad.
Yeah.
And yeah, I saw that coming. I felt so bad for her though.
Yeah.
Me too, just on the ground. But then she just like, I
was
don't want to be
glad-
married to you anymore. And I was like, yes.
And she was like so stoic. She just stood up. You
Yeah.
know, she wasn't gonna cause a big fuss about
Nope.
it. She's like, I don't want to be married to you. She packed a bag, went over to Patty's, and that was that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you go, girl.
I mean, I felt bad for her, but at the same time, I felt like, man, I guess that was the one straw that pushed her over the edge to finally leave him. Because
Yeah.
I don't know when else she would have.
I know.
Because she said so many sentences, even at the earlier in this episode or at the end of 9, she's like, well, I'm with Lenny.
Yeah.
And then Patty or whoever looked at her like,
About like what they would do if
oh,
this
if
lawsuit.
they went, and then her whole life is just like, well, I'm with Lenny, so I can't really do much.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man. So I was glad that it happened. It happened in a crappy way, but that was the one thing that I think would have pushed her out, and I'm glad she's out. I would rather her get hit and leave Lenny than not get hit and stay with him for the rest of her life.
Yeah, because she was miserable.
Oh, sure. And I think this one, like, it's an unfortunate situation, but it kind of helps justify her leaving.
Yeah.
I agree.
You can't be with someone like
Right,
that.
because you had to be pushed so far back then to be able to say, this is why I left my husband, not because, like, irreconcilable differences
Yeah.
like we do now. Everyone would be like, what? We don't get it.
Physically
The idea
and
that
emotional.
it was so hard to leave and to be put up against the wall and then do it. That's the whole. I think that's the whole thing. I think that's the whole show.
Yeah.
How much do you take before you
Yeah.
start climbing the barricade?
Totally.
So
Fight or flight.
She did.
Yep.
And then the day of, she goes down to Mrs. Burkhart's, who's the publisher. And I thought that was good that they decided to tell her. I like how they decided, except for no one told Sam. A little confused about that. But everyone else was considered.
You're right.
Yeah, so they tell her, and her reaction was interesting. She's like, I'm the publisher. Whose side am I supposed to be on?
Smart, though.
Yeah, and then she calls Finn and is like, lawyers are coming, and I'm pissed off.
Yeah.
And Finn was completely blindsided.
Yeah.
You see him going through that list of people who signed, and he was
he's
looking for Patty's
with
name.
his finger. I'm like, yep.
And he saw it, and
She wasn't there in time.
I was so happy that she turned around.
Yep.
Same here.
Because
Oof.
when she was like, I have to go tell Finn, I was like, really? Like, come on.
Yeah.
And then she saw the picture he chose. And I think that was all she needed to see. And she's like, no, screw that. Because I forget which girl it was, but she's like, because Patty goes, it's nothing personal, you know? It wasn't anything she had personally against any of these guys. And they were like, he could have let us write.
It is personal. Yeah.
So it is. And even though she thought Finn's this great guy, it is true. He's in charge. He could have changed it if he wanted to. And instead of letting Jane write the story, he reaches out to a random woman that doesn't work
Not
there.
even like, oh no, let's have a guy write it. It was another woman at another newspaper,
so
and
it
I'm like,
makes
that's
no
just
sense.
a double.
Yeah.
Yes.
Outsourcing.
So I was really glad that she decided to turn around and be there. it was amazing when Cindy was in the car and she heard the press conference and she just pulled out a mini shooter out of her bag and she was just so happy. It was
smiling in the wind.
It was such like an empowering moment because I felt like with how that was shot and she's just, it's like a freeing moment. She no longer has Lenny. This is happening and it's just like all this is so much ahead is to like so much is coming ahead.
I agree.
Pressure is relieved.
Yeah. So I thought that was a cool moment.
She has a freedom now to do what
She
she
does,
actually wants.
and
To
do-
go to whatever she said on the bed, like, travel and cover breaking news and go to different places.
So that was awesome.
Yeah.
And then quickly, Doug wants to go to Vietnam.
I think he's
Combat
so sad
experience.
I
about
think
Patty
he's just over. He needs to get away.
He needs to get out.
And I thought it was kind of cool to see him lay down the law with Finn a little bit too, because Finn goes like, "I'm in charge here," and he looks around and it's empty, and he's like, "But are you?"
Yeah.
Like, because he knows at this point what's going on and knows that Finn's in charge, but he has no idea.
Right.
So I thought that was cool how he said, you know, either you send me there or I'll write for another publication.
Yep.
So Finn kind of just got knocked down and down and down, and like, and him and his wife are done. They have that moment. I still, like I said, wish we knew more of what went wrong there.
with them. Yeah.
Because we just kind of started seeing it when it was bad.
And then they had that little reconnection. Which was cool. But
Not enough.
not enough, man.
Not enough.
That was that one last time before you got to say bye.
Yeah.
I think.
So I don't know. Maybe if this season 2, we'll see more of that.
Yeah.
But it ends with Jane speaking, and it's so awesome.
So good.
It's so good. It was one of those things where I knew that that's how they were gonna end it, but I'm like, but don't.
Right.
You know?
I know. I thought that it was just going to be good afternoon, cut. Good Girls Revolt, right? That's how I felt. She talked a little bit more and was like, we've asked Sweetly to, to write and whatever. She said a little bit more of like what they were doing, and then it was like out, and I was like, cool.
I was honestly hoping that when Patty was sitting there looking that Doug was going to show up or something and just be there like supporting.
Oh, right.
I thought that could possibly happen because when she sat down, it looked like she was kind of like painting across the crowd.
Yeah.
And I thought that maybe they were going to have him like run in and be there to support.
Right.
And she'd be like.
But I feel like the ending, the way that it was, made it better because it just became about the girls. Because she reached out to hold her hand, and then they both smiled, and she's like, yes, I'm here for you. Because she made a huge decision not to go with Guy. I'm going to stay here with my girls and support.
Yeah, that's very true.
that.
The way it ended, it's they kind of said screw the men.
Totally.
Love life and professional life. They're like, this is about us.
This is about.
And I think that's what needed to happen because we were saying that they were all somehow intertwined with the men who were wronging them, but they had all these feelings for them, so it made it hard for them to be fully focused.
You got emotion involved.
Exactly. If it was so easy then with the men, but I think the men keep getting in the way.
Yeah.
Emotionally with business, and they do the wrong thing, but your old idea about how you're supposed to be or how your relationship should be. So maybe season 2.
I know.
Yeah.
Payoff.
Let's make some
hope.
predictions of what could happen in season 2.
I haven't even thought
I can't even think about it.
Oh my goodness.
And now,
Predictions.
TV.
Who's got something? Do you got
Oh
something?
man. Oh yeah, you go. I don't know.
I was just thinking, like, maybe we'll see the tail end of her speech. I mean, we got the beginning, but I
Right.
kind of want to actually hear the whole freaking thing. If she is a writer herself, like, it's got to be an amazing speech. But I just want, like, I think this is like a downfall of Finn's career.
Yeah.
And so many things are just going to start even more so fall apart for him. And I just wonder what this is going to do. It's not really a prediction, but, like, I would like to see the men in that area and like that place like actually kind of maybe turn around and be like, oh, give them more opportunities to actually do something, like,
Right.
oh, do you want to write this, actually give them opportunities.
Right.
For some reason, I feel like if there's a season 2, it's gonna like skip ahead to like
3 years later.
not like even but like just like 2 weeks after or
right.
something. I don't think we're gonna see any more of the speech for some reason.
Right.
And then I'm also just I guess I don't have actually predictions either, but I'm very curious to what all the men's roles are gonna play, because up until this point it was all like kind of personal relationships. Like Sam and Jane, like they worked really well together, but there was something more. And now that all the ladies are like they're like in this zone to get what they deserve, I'm interested to how the guys are gonna fit in and react and what their role is going to be.
Yeah.
Because up until this point, they're pretty much the bosses. But now, with all this going on, it'll be interesting how, like, the dynamics change and if any of these men that we, like Sam or something, like if he has a weird reaction or, I don't know, different things like that.
Yeah.
I think Wix is coming back. I think Finn will get off of his high horse. He'll fire Gregory and then, like, yes, come back to Wick with his, tail tucked between his legs and be like, I need you.
Right.
I need you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Sam is going to be, if it comes back, I feel like he'll find out and he'll be rather forgiving and maybe supportive, like with Jane. I feel like they'd be a duo team of like, yeah, great. Like, you're great, Jane. Let's report together.
Yeah.
I feel like it would be great to have a cutaway of like Cindy and Doug where they're both away and Doug is actually maybe still covering the war, but he's not there. And like Cindy might be out there too, possibly, like away and not in the office. And maybe a drama with a guy quitting to be like, I'm not working with ladies at the same level. I quit.
Oh,
like
yeah.
some old
like someone,
school
or
stuff.
like someone like Gabe doing
Gabe,
that.
Gabe
Yeah.
is such a he bugs me, man.
Yeah.
And he bugs Denise too.
Yeah,
like
does.
he gave her chocolate and she's like, I don't want your chocolates. Like, what are you doing? And
I
I'm
know.
like, yeah, that's what I thought
And
too.
he's so oblivious. He like thinks he has a chance.
It's the
whatever.
worst.
So,
His one line was terrible. It's like, I heard you're a chocolate person.
yeah.
right. And you're like,
Politically, that's not correct.
Did you read that in your weird joke book, which is
Yeah.
not a joke book, but you
It's-
bought it because your name's Gabe and you're
So weird.
Yeah.
Well, Tracy, thanks again for being here.
Thanks for
now, do you
having
have
me.
any upcoming things that people can look out for you for, or what you have going on?
What do I have going on?
or your Instagram or any fun stuff we should look up.
Hopefully, season 2.
Hopefully
obviously.
season 2.
Yeah, we hope
Carol's
so.
got a lot to
Oh my
say.
gosh, yes.
I have a one-woman show that I'm getting ready to do.
Where?
I don't have a place yet. I'm getting ready to do a reading of the final script called Motion Cures, which ties in the other
Yes.
stuff. So that, and then hopefully Carol will get to come back and be a little more vocal.
Will you update that Motion Cures on Twitter or your website?
I will.
Yeah.
I definitely
Okay.
will. I definitely will.
Tweet it out because
Yes.
we'll be looking.
Everyone keep an eye out for that. And thanks everyone so much for watching with us this season. I can't believe that it's over. It went by
I
so
know. I'm
quick.
so sad.
Fingers crossed for season 2.
Yes, please.
Make sure you follow AfterBuzz on all social media, on iTunes, comment. We want to know what you think season 2 is going to be.
Yeah.
Because I'm just assuming at this point there's got to be one. They
has
can't
to
leave
be.
us hanging like
No, no,
that.
no.
Right.
I have been your host, Abby Vega. You can follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at _Abby Vega. Where can they find you guys?
You can follow me on Twitter at Serafini TV.
What about you, Trace?
Tracy at Tracy TSTiara.
Hey guys, I'm Tara Erickson, and you can find me on youtube.com/Tara Erickson or Twitter at the Tara Erickson.
Thank you guys so much for watching, and hopefully we will see you next season.
Bye.
Goodbye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
Expressed herein are those of the host, not necessarily reflecting views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners and